All right, so this is probably going to be a little bit of a story, and then we're going to do some exploring of these 318s. So recently, you know that I bought 5 garden tractors, 4 318s and 1 322. In this particular case, I have the 4 318s and I have my 318 in this lineup. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, and the reason I bought all of these machines at the same time, is because it's a really unique opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to explore all of these machines and their differences. It's an opportunity that we don't normally get all together. And at the same time, it's an opportunity for you, the viewer, to look at some of the differences and see how everything, what you might want to look for if you're trying to buy a 318. It gives me multiple examples where we can go over and we can look at lots of little individual things that you would see that you wouldn't expect, or you wouldn't have anything to compare. Now, I will say that my 318 is on the end. Please do ignore the 3-point and the rear PTO on it and the suspension seat. Now, I will talk a little bit about those, but I think it's very important for you to ignore those 3 things. I thought about taking them off, but that takes about 4 hours of my time to take off the rear PTO and the 3-point and the seat, so I'd opt to just leave it on there. I took everything else off. I've also left all of these machines without decks. The reason I have left them without decks is because I think sometimes the deck could muddy the waters quite a bit, as in terms of what deck or accessories or things like that. So like I said, ignore the 3-point, the rear PTO, and the suspension seat on this one. But here are our 5 targets, okay? Now, the reason I said that this first video would be kind of a story is there were 9 tractors at this auction. There were 7 318s and 2 322s. And I think I shocked everybody. Auctioneer did choice. And for those of you that don't know what choice means, basically it means that you get to pick out of the whole lineup what garden tractor you want. I will go ahead and tell you what I paid for each one of these 318s. My bid ended up at $1,200 the first time I had a winning bid, and I took the remaining 5. Now, I will freely admit that $1,200 was more than probably 2 or if not 3 of these 318s was worth. However, I opted to go ahead and spend the $1,200 rather than try to get multiple 318s, you know, just to save $100 here, $100 there, because there's no telling, maybe we get down to the last one and the price would go up. And I really wanted multiple machines to compare. There was still a 322 in the lineup, and so I went ahead and took that one. Not that I didn't want I did want the 322 to play with, but in this lineup I want to compare machine to machine. So that's now you know how much I paid for them. Like I said, I probably overpaid on at least 2 if not 3 of them. I think, in my personal opinion, I think that 2 of them are worth the $1,200. And we're going to go through and we're going to figure out how much I would pay. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you how much I would pay for each one of these, and we're going to compare it to the example down here on the end, which, if you go back and look at the good versus bad 318 video, I did just for good measure, because I got a couple of comments when I did that video. It's like, well, how can you say anything about it when the seat's cracked? So what I did is I got out my nice pristine seat that normally sits upstairs in the shop, has no cracks in it or anything else, and I put that on. And as soon as I get done with this video, I'm going to take it back off and put my cracked one on. So because there's no reason to crack a good seat. And so it's going to go back into storage just like it always does, and occasionally I'll get it out and put it on there. So that's the story behind why I purchased these tractors, and how perhaps I overvalued them quite a bit. I know I think I kind of shocked the auction goers when I said I would take 5 of them at $1,200. There were several individuals that I think let out either a laugh or a gasp, but presents a really, really good opportunity for me and a really, really good opportunity for you. And obviously I make a little bit of ad revenue. I don't do Patreon or anything like that, but I do make a little bit of ad revenue. That covered a little bit of this, so we can go from there. So I think that what I'm going to do is we're just going to walk down through here and we'll explore each one of these machines very, very briefly, just as kind of a surface overview of them. And then we'll kind of stop that video and we'll get a little bit more specific once we go to the next video. So let me get set up for that. I got to look up a couple things really quick in terms of years, and we'll go from there. All right, so let's walk down through this line real quick and let's explore these machines very, very briefly. So here, first, we have serial number 318X317, which that would put it at a 1985 model year. Now, as we go through this, I'll point out a couple differences that you might notice. And this one right here, dog saying hi. And this one right here, serial number 18199. So that would be, oh, let's see here, actually, yeah, 1899. So this is a 1990 right here. This one right here is serial number 102838. So it's going to be a 1991. This is serial number 232390. And so that's going to be a 1983, which we'll come to those differences here in just a minute. And then this is serial 477089, which makes it a 1988. So we definitely have a good representation of all of these machines. Now, a couple things you could see on the outset. This being a 1985, it should have a P8 B43G engine in it. The next two should have P218Gs in them. The 1983 is going to have the B43G, and then our 318 here on the end should have the P218G in it. Also at the same time, we know, if you notice, the seats are, aside from the color, we're going to look down the line here real quick, and we're going to look at some of the differences that you can see from both angles. On this particular side, you see that second one in has the flip type seat. The flip type seat came out in 1987, so we know it is older than 1987, or newer than 1987. However, the second one, we note, or the third one in, we notice doesn't have a flip up seat. So the seat has been replaced at some point in time. So that's something to be considered. And the 88 should also have a flip up seat. Instead, it has a suspension seat. The suspension seat was an option on these machines. So now let's look, probably another big telltale sign of what year a machine might be is if you look at these panels right here. Up until late 1988, they had solid screens like this right here. Now there's a couple differences you can see through that. If you look in here and you see those 3 bolts, it's a little bit later type machine, and I'm drawing a blank on the serial number break on that, but we're going to go ahead and look at the 83. And if you look at the 1983, it's got this solid screen that's not removable, but when you look in there, you don't see the 3 bolts. You see kind of a U-shaped metal thing that is actually the hydrostatic lever. Okay. And late 1988, 1989, they went to these side panels like this. And so you see both in the 1990 and the 1991 there, or 1990, 1991 right here, you see those side panels. And then down here on the very end for the 1985, you once again, you see that curved U. I want to say they did away with that between 85 and 86, but don't quote me on that. Okay. So there are some of your major outside differences that you might be able to pick up just looking at the pictures online. Say you want to go buy one or something like that. Those things always don't hold true, particularly the seats. Obviously, that third one in, that seat has been replaced. It's no longer a flip seat. So let's go ahead and lift up the engines, or lift up the hood and look at the engines. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk down through here and lift all the hoods up at the same time. That way we can just walk from one to one. The grill fell out on that one. That's good news. We'll come back to that. And so all these hoods feel pretty good so far. Oh, we got our first farmer fix again. Now I intentionally left this 318 dirty because the others are dirty. Okay, so now let's see here. as we walk down through here, we see, oh, that hurt. Now I'm going to go ahead and mention the hours. So this one right here, this is my 318, has 954 hours on it. It has should be a P218G engine in it. I happen to know it's a P220 because I'm the one that rebuilt it. And I cannot remember if I replaced the tag on it. I want to say I did, but you can't see it in there. But one of the ways you can tell a P218 engine from a B43 is the air filter cover. Now the air filter cover, if you notice this edge right here, how it's kind of just a round edge. Meanwhile, let's look at the 1983 with the B43G in it. We see it's kind of got this chamfered edge on it. Also, we notice that the coil is mounted here versus back here, farther back in the engine. B43s also have metal tags, whereas the P218 has printed tags. In this particular case, we have 1,635 hours on it. All right. Now, we already talked about the farmer fix on the oil dipstick there. No clue why they did that. This one is a P218G, just like we'd expect. Once again, had that kind of curved edge right there. This one has 1,517 hours on it. This next one, once again, a P218G, and you can see down there, you can see the P218 part. You can actually see it, and you can verify the year of the engine. The first two numbers there, that 90, that's the year it was manufactured, so it was 1990. And E is, I believe, E is the month. But this engine right here has 1,100, or this tractor right here has 1,103 hours on it. And then this 1985, doesn't conform, right? So it's got a rounded cover on it, so it's a P series engine. And sure enough, if we look down here, it says P218G. B97 is a serial number. That means that this engine is from 1987, or 1997. So this is a new engine, or a replacement engine. It's not a new engine, but this tractor itself has 1,107 hours on it. Now, the reason I bring all this up and the reason I gave you the hours is because what I witnessed at the auction is everybody went by the hours on these machines. I can go ahead and tell you that hours are not accurate. When I go to auctions or when I go to buy machines, I do not care about the hours. Hour meters can be unplugged, engines can be replaced. I care about a lot of other things over the hour meter. But as a matter of just kind of going through the line, when I watch people select the 4 machines that were sold ahead of this one, they went by hours first, options second. I watched someone pick it was a really, really nice 318. Won't lie. I mean, it was a nice running, nice sounding 318, but it had a few issues. But it was the lowest, I believe it was the lowest hour unit there. And I watched it sell for $19.50, and I thought that was a bit ridiculous for what it was. It had a little bit of a hashed out deck on it. I'll see if I can find a picture, but the hour meter only had 400 hours, and they chose that over a 318 with a 50-inch deck, rear PTO, bagger, really, really nice 50-inch deck. And I believe that one sold for $18.50. So, you know, it's one of those deals that hours, they don't mean a whole lot to me. I'm more concerned. We obviously already know that this one might be a better machine because it has a replacement engine, or it could be a worse machine because it has a replacement engine. So one of the couple things just to look at, you've got these 5 comparisons done. So what I'm going to do, I think this is going to be the end of part 1. And I think I'm going to walk down through here and we're going to take all the side panels off. Actually, we'll probably leave the side panels on. We'll just do a walk around of each machine and see what we can find just through video of how, and we're going to ultimately rank these machines 1 through 5 and see how much we would pay for them. And we're just going to make the assumption that they all have the exact same deck.